Hey everybody, what's going on? Brother John here, and we're having another episode of the Night Owl. Welcome. And what we're doing tonight is part two of if you were king or queen, or you had control of the government, how would you run it? And we did one a couple weeks ago, and I think it went very well. I'll quickly recap. If I miss anything, if somebody wants to fill in, Grant, I know you were there. Um, But I think basically we were talking basically about that we needed one, a good education system and a good health system, and primarily our governments were going to be based on the foundation of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. You know what the founding fathers' uh, original intents were for the government, and then I think a lot of us agreed that it was just a matter of more accountability. You know, it's gotten so corrupted, but that the present system is pretty good, but again, need to be tweaked, need to get all the garbage out of the government. But we were talking about the importance of education and reforming that and the health system. Um, so today, though, I wanted to touch upon how would we run our criminal justice system. Would you do something different with the courts? Would you do something with the the punishments? Um, would there be appeal processes? Would there be the death penalty? All those kind of all that good stuff. Um, did I miss anything, Grant? From well, John May left. Did I miss anything from the last one?
No, I think you covered it nicely.
Okay, thank you. So, uh, how you think? How would you run your criminal justice system? Any thoughts?
Well, I think first I would get money out of politics. I think that is a huge issue no matter what you're talking about in any branch. Because right now, a lot of times, you have the state prisons run privately, and they're for-profit prisons. So what you have, people who are perfectly healthy getting sent to the for-profit prisons. The people who are sick and need to be taken care of go on the taxpayer dollar. And a lot of times, even in the war on drugs, a lot of people are spending too much time in jail when they don't need to be there, or being arrested for any little thing and serving time just to be put in the for-profit prisons. And the numbers of minorities and things are so disproportionately balanced. It makes you wonder, how it hasn't been fixed already. Like, I know the taxpayer doesn't want to do it, but if people are making money off putting people in prison, they need as many people in prison as possible to make a dollar, and they will keep you in there.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's no reason for someone really to be in prison for a non-violent crime, such as like smoking a joint on the street corner or something like that.
Or in their own home.
Or in their own home, yeah. And the privately owned.
All those victimless crimes, they need to be let go. If it's a victimless crime, then holding somebody in there and punishing them, it isn't right.
Hmm.
So, and I would also add to that we don't really have a rehabilitation system. We just have punishment, and it's kind of weird the way it works. I mean, you get taken out of society and put in, for all intents and purposes, a cage, but it's not really, because in there you could still have television and a gym and, a lot of amenities that are offered in society, but in a restrictive way that are used as a punishment. Oh, you didn't do this, so we're going to cut you off from that, or we're going to put you in solitary confinement, or this or that. But we treat our prisoners like animals here.
Yeah, and then when they're serving a significant amount of time, they can't adapt to being in society.
Or even a
And
short time because of the stigma we attach to anybody who served time.
true. Hmm. So would you suggest for certain crimes that uh, maybe over like a probation period, their record gets expunged?
Absolutely, and I think that instead of just locking them away from the public eye and hoping Johnny gets better, they should get the kind of counseling or treatment or job training or whatever it is that they're missing that would allow them to go back and be productive in society.
Now the question comes, who pays for that now as well?
We're paying for it now. We pay more for a prisoner than we do a school student.
But remember, we're starting our own government here, kind of from the bottom up.
Yeah, I honestly don't know where the tax revenue comes from that funds prisons, so I can't speak to that.
Well, as a lot of it is privately owned.
I know the state and
Yeah.
federal prisons are all, not privately owned. I know there's a lot of for-profit prisons, correction, custody, CCC, whatever they are, is getting huger by the month, it seems. But I don't know. I don't know where the actual revenue comes from for the other prisons. I do know this. I can speak to this though, just as another add-on is
Sure.
when you look at places like Norway and things like that, their model over there seems to be working. I mean, they're closing prisons down because they don't have any inmates for them. And I'm just going to briefly show you a picture here real quick. This is a prison cell in Norway. I don't know if you can see my screen. I'm sharing screen. Kitchen, bathroom. I mean, that kitchen is better than mine. You know what I mean? In my house. Um, Prison in America. Contrast is huge, yeah? We have to keep building more prisons because we don't have enough room, and they're closing their prisons because they don't have enough prisoners. Um, the model they use is working over there, and I think we need to start looking outside of the U.S. criminal justice system for a model to build our prisons on.
With a cell like that, you might just be encouraging crime.
I think
Yeah,
the thing, I think the thing there is we're still going to treat you like a human being. You're not an animal, You need some time to reflect, or you need some training, or you need whatever it is. But you're not less worthy because you made mistakes.
yeah, I think here we're afraid to look elsewhere because we like to think that we like to invent our own ideas and go it alone. And I think that we should take what the best in the world is doing and applying it if we're not being as successful as them. Like look at some of the benchmark places that have, good running societies and implement some of those changes. We don't tend to do that. We look the other way and take the money and run.
Now, what would you do with like some hardcore criminals? I mean, I find it hard to have any sympathy for someone like a first degree murderer. They premeditated the crime, and I don't know. Part of me really wants to just give a death penalty.
I honestly don't have easy answers for those. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that, but I'm not opposed to capital punishment for things that are beyond repair. I mean, they say, for example, and I would need to research these things to answer honestly, but as stands with what limited information I have now, for example, pedophilia. I understand that that's basically, it's not even a sexual crime. It's about dominance and fascination and weird kind of psycho things going on, and it has to be repressed and fought against, and you're never cured from it. You can take drugs and you can receive therapy and things along that line, but you're never not a pedophilia. So things like that, is there a proper way to take that person and release him back into society? Because this week he forgets his meds and little Johnny gets cornholed. You know, it's a sad tragedy in life, but some of us are broken, and there has to be a way to handle that kind of situation. You know, there are broken people that can't be fixed with our current medical and psychological technology.
Yeah, I think with education, some of that would slow up. Like, we need to ask why they committed the crime and understand ask better questions about it than what we do now. So, do we let a person who has mental problems, who might have been able to plan a crime, that doesn't mean he's okay mentally. You know, he could be narcissistic and extremely smart and educated, but, you know, like if we didn't know enough about it, then, you know, the short answer is, you know, just kill him off. But what about the next guy? You know, like if it's actually, and once you start identifying it, you know, maybe you could implement social policies somewhere along the way to catch it before it actually becomes a crime.
I'm with you on that. You got my vote.
Got my vote. Yeah, and I guess again it comes back to you know, the education system, like we were discussing in the first time. I think if we had proper education, you know, was teaching critical thinking and
It's always going to come back to education. The society you build is built. The foundation is education, and if everybody is capable and everybody is smart enough to, you know, be involved in complex communication between other individuals, then you're not going to have the kind of crime that, you know, an uneducated society has.
unless there's some severe mental illness, like we're talking about, that like the pedophiles.
That's always going to be the exception to the rule, and that type of thing is going to be from, you know, you're always going to get the deviant from the norm, and it's not going to necessarily be because of, you know, education. It's just you've got a defective brain, you know, that's going to happen.
Hmm.
I think that, I mean, even within our own system that we have now, if our education system was just more capable of educating everyone in the country on equal footing, or even better footing, we would have a lot less crime.
Like, I think too, better community and better ideas of nationalism. Because I think a lot of times when groups are marginalized and they feel that they cannot be, for some reason, included in with the whole, they become disillusioned and forget maybe their role in society, or maybe don't even try. And so, like, they're already starting off at a disadvantage, and it makes it very hard to even get that education or to get that advancement that you would need to not turn to criminal acts to support yourself and your loved ones, if you have any.
I'm honestly starting to be anti-nationalism, and I've got something going right now, and it's still free-forming in me. But I'm starting to think that the whole, you know, chanting, marching, and repeating a line of history that we have that, you know, puts us always at #1 at everything we do, which isn't necessarily the case, but we want to believe that because, you know, the propaganda machine will feed us that, or our ignorance will allow us to believe that for whatever reason. And I think that's part of the problem that prevents us from looking at models that other countries use that are successful. I don't know how to frame that properly. I'm not very good at English in this arena yet, but I think we have
Well, there is a difference, like, between hyper-nationalism. Hyper-nationalism is, like you say, where you totally go overboard. We're #1 at everybody. I mean, everything. There's nobody like us, and we don't want anybody else in here.
Yeah.
So you totally exclude everybody from the melting pot. But what I mean is, you're allowed to keep a normal view of nationalism to where it's not hyper. Is you say, yeah, I'm an American, I'm a Canadian, and these are my people, and I live here. Even though I might have French identity, I might have Italian identity, or different types of ethnic backgrounds, different types of belief systems, you're still identify as Canadian or United States, or because even that, even that little bit helps people feel included. And if people become marginalized, they don't assimilate. And that was a lot of problem Muslim communities were having in Europe, because the government was like, oh, we got to have forced assimilation policies. That kind of thing never works, especially in the justice system. Forced assimilation never works, because if a group's repressed, they're gonna rebel against that, and it makes the group who's rebelling more cohesive.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. I do think that we need to be more citizen of the world in some aspects of our life, whereas instead we're taught through our education system that, we don't need to be citizen of the world because we're citizen of the United States, and we are number one. I don't know that that's necessarily the doctrine that they're trying to teach, but it seems to be the byproduct that comes off from the students,
Right. Well, I think what scared everybody was globalization, because they were afraid of losing their ethnic identities. And so a lot of people retaliated against globalization, and they started going back to, oh, I'm not a person of the world, I'm Irish. I'm not a person of the world, I'm an American. I'm not a person of the world, I'm, say, Mexican. So they don't care what happens anyplace else in reality, and they don't even want to know.
Oh, we lost you there.
Hi, Prescott.
Hi, Grant.
I think Wayman dropped.
Yeah.
Hi, Raven. Hi, Brojo.
What's up?
Not too much. I was waiting to go into, I guess, some mysterious room.
Yeah, I have a problem with these invites. I don't know.
Yeah. I thought I made a mistake the first time when I was sitting there waiting, so I thought, okay, I'll go and I'll use the other link. So I went to another link, and I ended up waiting outside a room there. And so I thought, well, maybe there was a problem. And then I thought, well, maybe I better post, because it does seem that it's supposed to be going on now. So anyway.
And I sent an invite directly from this room too. I don't know.
Well, I think that was the one that you posted on the page.
No. I just copied the URL and posted it.
Oh, okay. That's the one that got me in.
Yeah. It's just I don't like doing it because I'm not looking to have anybody come in,
I know the riffraff is
Yeah.
wandering around aimlessly tonight.
Well, wait a minute, you got cut off there, and you have your mic going? Because I see you unmuted. Oh, it's probably reloading. Okay.
Who you calling riffraff?
Well, people that aren't here, but not all. But not all. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, that was it. So, what do you think needs to change in our current justice, legal, prison, whatever system? Before you answer, am I asking the wrong question? Shouldn't it be how would you? Are you doing more of a how would you build it from the ground up, John?
Yeah. I guess, that does entail what you would change, because obviously you're going to go by what's wrong with it now. So I guess, yeah.
There's Now, I had posted a link earlier about a project in Honduras where they have created a zone that is an experiment with a different type of government and different kind of rules. And one of the things that they're doing with, as far as resolving some civil problems between people, is to use arbitration, where each side in the dispute chooses an arbitrator. It doesn't have to be a lawyer. It actually, and I don't know if it's from a pool of people that have been approved or not, but and then the two arbitrators are they then choose a third, and between the three of them, they investigate the contractual dispute and render a decision, and everybody agrees to abide by it. Which seems to be a significant problem in a lot of the kind of ways that people get involved in trying to resolve disputes now through the court system, where the only winners are the lawyers.
Yeah, the ones with the big bucks.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, and these people who do get because, well, in America, you have a right to representation. And if you can't afford a lawyer, one will be provided for you. And usually these people their caseload is so heavy.
Yeah.
Have you seen the qualifications of some of the public defenders?
No.
Oh,
Pretty minimal.
yeah. There was a line in a movie, I think Chris Rock gave it out, where he said, if you can't afford a lawyer, we'll guarantee that the dumbest son of a bitch to ever pass law school will represent you. Not far from the truth in my experience.
That sounds like Lethal Weapon 4.
That's quite possibly where it came from, but it's not far from the truth in my experience.
Yeah.
So these are probably the ones who were not smart enough to get into those nice law firms.
Oh yeah. Well, the law firms are, well, they're like everybody else. They're scouting for good talent going through the universities, and
Yeah.
so obviously the ones that don't get picked are the ones that are going to have to settle for being public defenders and stuff like that. And that's not to say that there aren't some good public defenders or people that actually choose to go in that. They want to stay out of the law firms, but few and far between.
Yeah, there's always the guy that's going in there that's going to be looking for political office, or wants to work his way up to the DA through that food chain, and absolutely. But I'm just saying from the public defenders I've seen and I'm not going to say where in Southern California, but man, it was Leisure Suit Larry, and just no grasp of what the situations are. Cattle call lawyering. If I take on a caseload of 65 people today, maybe I'll win 4. It's just awful.
Yep.
So that brings up an interesting question. Grant, have you had to have many public defenders?
I've actually been in a position 3 times where I've had to rely on the public defender's office. Yes.
Uh-huh.
I wasn't always this even-keeled, mild-mannered individual you see before you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, do you want my expert opinion on what could be changed in LA County Prison?
Sure, yeah. What can be changed?
I haven't done time, and
Oh.
I,
Yeah, it could have been.
I've spent a few nights, I will say, in a holding cell in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I've spent a few nights in the jail in the Valinda Sheriff's Department.
I assume since it was just a jail and it was only a holding, it was probably pretty minor.
One was inciting to riot, and the other was battery.
Hold on. Inciting a riot?
Inciting to riot is what they call it, but yeah.
Oh.
It was a biker bar fight in a little shitwater town in Colorado. It's stupid too. It started over a joke.
Yeah. That and plenty of alcohol. Right?
Get the cat.
Yeah, I know. Well, a friend of mine and me, we both had Harleys at the time, and we thought it would be funny if we had our own colors, and so this is just a stupid side story, but we called ourselves the One-Eyed Jacks because there's only two of us. That was the joke. Yeah. Well, we ran into a real biker gang that didn't think joking about colors was funny.
Can you tell us anything about the Canadian system, Prescott?
I think it's probably, it seems to me to be a little more formal than the U.S. system. You know, the lawyers still and the judges still wear wigs and stuff like that. But I think it's based based on the British system, which I think is not entirely dissimilar from the U.S. I think I read somewhere that after a number of Perry Mason movies, that lawyers in the U.S. started kind of taking their cues from the lawyers that they saw on the big screen, and they would move away from their desks and would walk around. And prior to that, they were pretty much like we are up here. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I had heard. And I have not been involved in any bar riots or spent any time in holding cells. Or
Well, you don't know what you're missing, young man. You can find out a lot in a holding cell when you're sitting there with somebody who beat his wife and somebody who stole a car. You get some interesting perspective on things.
I imagine you do.
You should try it one time, Prescott. So go out there, commit a crime.
Listen, I'm gonna tell you. I will tell you this from one night in lockup in you know, the La Puente Sheriff's jail. Just staring at them four concrete walls one night was enough for me to say that I never wanted to be in a jail again. You know, that's all it took for me. That's all it took. I mean, not that I was going to be a criminal or, you know, go out on a crime spree or anything, but I mean, at that point, I made a decision. I'm never going to do anything that brings me into a place like this in any kind of semi-permanent situation.
I hear you.
Scared straight.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. That lack of it, that complete lack of, I can't go out. I can't walk out this door. I can't go get something to eat or go get a drink or take a shit in privacy or anything. You know, all of that is gone now. I can't wear a belt. You know, have shoelaces, stupid crap like that you just take for advantage. All of a sudden, your world is just now run by somebody else.
You talking about prison?
Yeah. One day. That's
when
all
did you spend a stint in prison?
I just did one day in a jail.
Oh, yeah. I spent like 6 hours in jail once.
And it takes much to know that you don't want to do it, though, doesn't it?
Well, luckily, since I was only there for 6 hours, I probably slept for 4.5 of it, so it wasn't too bad for me. Although I hate flip-flops, and you have to wear their standard issue flip-flops.
Yes.
I can't stand flip-flops.
Foamy shower shoes.
Yeah, they're like little germ fucking collectors. They're fucking nasty.
Yes.
Well, actually, this is giving us some good ideas about what to keep in our system.
Right.
Absolutely. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to divert off us.
No.
Did you actually make it to a cell, Grant? Or I think I got the drunk tank is what I got.
No, yeah, I was in a cell. I had roommates.
I wasn't drunk, but yeah.
Hey, Armin, how you doing? Joe, formerly said hello.
I got arrested before, but I never made it to a cell.
You had a good lawyer, huh?
No, yeah, because I'd never really done anything, so they let me out on my personal recognizance. But before they did that, they made me cough. And that's, you guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, of course. My ex-girlfriend went on a traffic violation, which is what I went for. And she was scared to death because she had piercings, down below. And they were like, you've got to take those out. She was so embarrassed.
They put you in a holding cell for 6 hours for a traffic violation?
Well, to be fair, I was pulled over. That was like my 6th time driving while suspended.
Oh.
It took me 3 months and $4,700 to get my license back, and then I had 2 years of traffic probation.
How on earth do you get pulled over 6 times?
That's what I said. I was even in an accident, and they let me go one time.
No, but I just mean, how do you get pulled over 6 times when you know you're...
Well, I was young and dumb, and I liked to speed.
Golly.
I mean, I got my first speeding ticket the day after I got my license, if that tells you anything.
Yeah, and you're a white guy even,
Yeah.
You're the only white guy I know that got pulled over that many times.
No, because he got away with it, so it doesn't...
I've probably been pulled over 20 times.
Were you blaring rap out your windows?
That would have been funny.
Yeah, and it was fuck the police.
The one that put the icing on the cake was the last time, though. Grant, I got mad at my ex, the crazy one, and hopped in the car, and all my intentions were just to go for a ride. Well, I went down to the end of the corner and pulled on the highway. I blew the stop sign, and I pulled out right in front of a cop. It was bad.
So do you think it was... So, Joe, do you think it was unjust for them to put you in a holding cell?
Oh no, they should have done it probably the second time they pulled me over driving while suspended. It would have saved me a lot of money in the long run. My bail was only like $400. I mean, I spent $4,700 in total, and I had to go to like 6 different courthouses and down to the Indianapolis State fucking BMV department to get it all sorted out. So, yeah.
So what you're saying then is that the current punishment for crime is not harsh enough.
They've changed it now. They take you in now pretty much anytime you're driving while suspended in Indiana. It didn't used to be that way.
And tow your car.
Yep. I was lucky. At least they let somebody come and get my car, and the cop was even cool. He let me smoke a couple cigarettes on the way in, so I was lucky.
Yeah, when they release your car to a private towing, that's just another nightmare all in itself, because they'll take your car and then they'll charge you whatever they want for rental space while you're handling your shit. Oh, yeah. We had your car 2 days in the tow yard at $240 a day. So, it's like $500 to get your car out. Oh, plus the $150 to tow it there.
And God only knows what damage she'll do to your car too.
And then there was the time when my stripper friend got in trouble, and I had custody of her 3 kids for 3 days while she was in jail. None of her family would take her kids. How shitty is that?
You should get some new friends.
I like my friends.
No, they sound very interesting.
Yeah, they are. They're very interesting.
Well, and they're strippers. Not that there's anything wrong with being a stripper. But if you're going to be in that line of work, you've got to stay out of jail when you have kids.
Well, the problem was she had a boyfriend at the time. She went to work, and she came home, and the cops had raided the house because apparently he had an insane amount of drugs. He was dealing out of her house while she was at work. So,
Well, this brings up an interesting thing, because again, we're talking about how, you would, you were king or queen and controlling the government, and how you would run your criminal justice system. Um, would you guys consider legalizing prostitution?
Yes.
I get a
Yes.
yes.
Yeah, I don't think it does any good to keep it illegal.
Yeah, let them go. Let them do it.
If you want to do that to yourself, I don't see the problem. I think there'd be a lot less of like people stealing.
Well, it's
People,
legal in Australia. John May tends to stay home a lot, if that tells you anything.
I think
It's legal in a lot of places because they don't feel that the government has any right to tell a woman what she can do with her body.
well, there's men that do it too, but yeah.
Certainly, absolutely. I apologize. That was sexist of me. I didn't mean to do that.
Oh, I almost didn't notice Reuben was in here. He's the little owl.
Yay, pet me owl.
Yeah, so my internet connection went down. I'm sorry I got raptured there. I don't know how much you got. I was just going on about globalization and identity and all that.
We got nothing.
Chanting and marching and being national.
Mhm. Now, I was bringing up before. I'm kind of uncompassionate towards first-degree murderers, and I would tend to lean towards capital punishment. That would be for someone, first degree. There would it was all planned out. There's a weapon found. There's a body. Couple witnesses maybe. It would have to be really a solid case.
I feel like capital punishment is almost as bad as like stoning or any other type of punishment. You could give the right to take anybody's life away. Yeah, anything.
I used to be for it, but now I'm on the fence.
In my society, you could not get capital punishment.
What's that? I mean, you're getting goggled up a little bit.
In my society, you could not get capital punishment.
Okay.
But I think there are some things that people do that are deserving. Don't get me wrong. I just don't think it right.
Yeah, I'm, for murder and stuff like that, I don't know. I think a study would need to be done, but I'm with you that definitely the premeditated type is much more sinister than somebody who reacts in an emotional state or whatnot, on scene. But so there's obviously varying degrees of stuff like that. But going back to the main premise is if we get rid of all the people that are in the prisons for victimless crimes now and educate the people that are coming up in society so that they don't need crime and, genuinely treat people humanely that are in prison and trying to, like I said, rehabilitate, re-educate, or, get them the help, medical treatment, or therapy that they need to cope with whatever they're bothering. I don't think we're going to have to worry about the prisons being overpopulated with murderers anyway.
This is true. This is true.
Well, even to get rid of the population that is in there for really pretty minor crimes would alleviate a lot of that problem with those congestion.
It's criminal for there to be people in prison because they couldn't afford to pay a traffic ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I ran into that at my last hearing. There was a guy that that's the only reason they were holding him.
There's a lot of people in my old neighborhood in California because it was a lower end neighborhood, high Hispanic population, and a lot of those people in my neighborhood, friends, family, everything else, were in and out of the LA County system based on traffic violations. It was ridiculous. And it's not that they're bad people. They just couldn't afford to pay for something, And that's like debtor's prison, and that's illegal, and it should be criminal.
brings up another interesting thing about people. They're men going to jail for not paying child support. Um,
Oh,
now,
that's a good one. Hmm.
what would you do in a case, and it's almost counterproductive because, if he can't pay the child support, I'm not talking about people say who refuse to, but there are just some who maybe they're just on hard times as whatever, and they can't pay the child support, and they go into prison. Now you just cut off any way of getting income.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely a
But
problem.
that one's a deterrent. I like the one where when they just take away the driver's license.
What?
Yeah, but that kills their job too.
Not really, because then you can still get to work on the bus and some other crap. That to me is more of a fair deterrent than sending them to prison.
That would all be depending on where you live too. Not, I mean, in a metro city, metro area, yeah, public transportation could be easily accessible. But if you're like in the country or somewhere,
I don't have a bus within 100 miles of me here.
yeah.
Are you getting anybody pregnant?
I certainly could.
Yeah, but you definitely aren't.
He's got his neighbor knocking on his door every day.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about the neighbor.
I have opportunity. I have motive.
What was I going to say? This one's a hard one for me because it's so personal. Because I've had a deadbeat dad who hasn't paid child support, or finally started paying last year, but hadn't paid for 14, 15 years.
I mean, I'm sorry, but it's hard to hear you. Can you get closer to the mic?
Yeah, sure. I had a deadbeat dad who hadn't paid child support 14, 15 years and started again last year after they caught his ass. Finally again, right? And it's not like he has to pay a ton. It's really a joke how much he has to pay. But anyway, I wish they would have thrown his sorry ass in jail or done something to make him wake up like 7 years later. But
You'd think they'd have a better system Title 4D only does so much. They can catch some of them and start docking their checks, but I guess if they don't have a job, why not make them work some sort of community service and pay them half of whatever and just give it to the fucking mother?
I would my whole thing is if you don't have a job, totally work community service and at least pay for your kids' health insurance.
Yeah.
Yeah, community service would be good. Like you kind of get, I don't know how it would work. I don't know in that situation with child support, but maybe in other kind of victimless crimes, community service would be good because that would lessen a burden on the taxpayer. You can kind of give them a credit or something. I don't know how it would work with child support because then the woman's still not getting the money.
Well, no, what I'm saying is instead put them on stuff that the city would normally have to pay to get done, but pay them a lower wage and then just give it to the mother.
Cleaning up the parks, picking up trash on the side of the freeway, stuff
I always thought that they should do that with welfare in a lot of ways, where if you're getting welfare, you have to be involved
I like that idea.
in some sort of activity.
I agree.
Even if it's Meals on freaking Wheels, delivering meals to senior citizens or whatever.
Whatever it is, you have to volunteer or be working.
Or show up somewhere at 10 o'clock in the morning and they'll pass out whatever jobs the city or county has for that day, and they'll bus you or shuttle you off to wherever you need to be, and you can do whatever. I'm all for that kind of program.
And you have to wear a customized T-shirt like "Deadbeat Dad" or something.
For people that are on welfare or stuff.
Can you imagine how much shit would get done?
Yeah, but you know what? And I think they should be praised for doing it because now they're doing a service, so it shouldn't be looked down upon as much, not stigmatized. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they would give you free childcare for that day.
Certainly, and though the people that are doing something, they can feel like they were productive that day as well. I think there's a sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, you can use some of them to even provide the child care services if they're able. There you go.
We've created the perfect socialist society.
Yeah, well, chat's over.
They can all take milk out of the same tit and everything.
Yeah, we figured it out. Chat's over. Have a good night.
It's still gonna come down to who's gonna pay for it all.
Hey, I wanted to post a link that changed my mind on the death penalty. It was called a witness to an execution. It was put out by NPR a while back, and it totally blew my mind. It's about this guy who witnessed 114 executions in Texas, and he was part of the execution team. I'll just post that link, and it's been around probably for, I don't know, 10 years now, but that's what changed my mind on it.
All right, well, give me the long and short of it. What does it say?
Well, I just posted the link. There's a summary with this, so you don't need to listen to it.
Sorry. I don't. Oh, you don't get that some of us are on mobile or some other devices.
Hey, Michael. Well, that's not really Michael, is it?
And Michael, is that Michael?
Yeah. Well.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Yay!
Hey, it is really Michael.
Finally, he's got his internet.
How you doing, guys?
Doing well. Yourself?
Not too bad. How do I sound?
You sound different.
Okay.
Is
Marvelous.
it really you?
It's really me. Oh! There.
Wait a minute.
I'll post that link on my Gmail, and you should be able to see it for those who are on mobile. Okay?
Okay. I have the link here. Wayman, did you hear about the God, there's supposed to be an execution here in Pennsylvania, the first one in like, I think, 20, 30 years. It's supposed to be happening next month, I think.
What'd the guy do?
I'm sorry?
What'd the guy do? That's
That was murder. Yeah. I think it was his, I believe it was his girlfriend. I forgot all the particulars, but I caught the, caught the story a couple weeks ago.
How do they do it there in Pennsylvania?
A lethal injection.
Let's hope they get the cocktail right.
Oh.
But I don't think, yeah, I think it was 93, if I remember correctly. That's the last time there was an execution. Well, I'm sure there'll probably be some appeal process or something like that, yeah. So, Michael, welcome. I'm sure you caught the topic, you know. If you were king or queen, how would you run your criminal justice system? Is there anything you would do differently? More effectively?
Oh God. Good luck. Good luck.
He would just sprinkle stardusts of love.
You know what? That'd be great if everybody was like everybody in this room, whether, you know, we got some good souls here, but, you know, the rest of the world, I shouldn't say the rest of the world. There's a percentage of the world that is, you know, somewhat morally bankrupt. How about that?
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah. So, are we discussing anything besides that, or is it we're just on that subject?
We're on this subject for now, you know,
Okay.
and then we'll
Okay.
go off air and we can discuss anything, you know. But yeah, you know, we're doing like a sequel to our last one that we did on the subject, and I think we pretty much come to agree that, I mean, it's good education, you know, would probably resolve a lot of these criminal, you know, the criminality. I think if we had proper, say, taxation, you know, would less taxes would give better opportunities, you know. So
Michael, do you support capital punishment?
Good night, Prescott.
Wow.
Thanks for dropping by.
No. I was saying goodnight to Wayman.
Oh,
It's just
I'm
him
catch
sorry.
up.
Okay.
typing it
Okay,
out.
there it is. Okay.
By the way, I was just going to say that Michael might be a good person to ask about the Canadian prison system and court system.
Oh, how so?
He seems the type.
Michael, you know anything about the criminal justice the system in Canada there?
Not really.
Thanks a lot, Prescott.
Okay.
No comment. I take the fifth. Do you have a fifth in Canada? Huh?
We have common sense in Canada. We have healthcare in Canada. We have love, liberty, and joy. And we have Prescott. We are blessed.
You also have shit for internet.
Oh, yeah, you went Mr. Roboto.
Sorry, Michael, we couldn't hear you. You were garbled.
Yeah. That's a crime.
I did hear my name, so it couldn't have been good.
No, it was good. Michael, you're not coming in at all.
We all like Michael.
Yeah, Michael, it'd be nice if we can all just get along. But it just is not the case. It's unrealistic. Ruben, you have any thoughts you want to put in there? I can read out your comments. Unless he's in two different chats at the same time again.
He might be.
Earth calling Ruben. Earth calling Ruben.
There you go.
Oh yeah, I do not believe the state should have the power to take life.
What about the people, Ruben?
Yeah, about the people who actually is supposed to be in charge of the state. Well, the state's supposed to represent the people.
But maybe he believes in personal vengeance.
Does he?
I think he might.
I'm just saying.
There's somebody that does. There's somebody that believes just that, and I can't remember who it is.
He does believe in personal vengeance.
Yep.
Remember that reminds me of who was it? Bernie. What was his name? Bernie.
Bernie Madoff?
God. No, not Bernie Madoff. But I did want to bring him up too. What do we do with? Okay, well, all right. I will. What do you do with guys like Bernie Madoff?
Sentence him to hard labor, North Korea style.
A lot of these people are not getting their money back. Even though he's spending time in prison, he's people not getting their money back. That's for sure. Tar and feather 'em. Public humiliation. There was I've heard of a couple of stories of judges who would make people go out there with a sign, and it said, the crime they committed, in the hopes of public humiliation, really changing their attitude.
It's not the same as when your mother does it, Not that that's ever been done to me.
Used to be mothers would do that, but
right.
Now if the court did that, you'd probably have most mothers up in arms for humiliating their child and embarrassing them, and it's going to hurt their self-esteem.
Isn't it funny how we're so for capital punishment in the United States, even though I know that's changing, but you wouldn't dare have like public lashings, That'd be too inhumane. But just kill them. That's okay.
Yeah. One of the things that I thought about when I was listening to the other hangout, and I'm sorry I missed the front end of this. It seems to me that it's almost like we've taken it as a given that many of the things like whether it's education or the healthcare system or whatever, it's almost like there's really quite a willingness to embrace a socialist style or a socialist idea in these areas. And I'm just kind of wondering how that fits into the idea of personal responsibility and freedom to choose, because it seemed to me that every time that you discuss how you would go about implementing this, it seemed to me that if you actually followed the money trail, it all came back to taxation and as the means to, or the mechanism by which to fund all of these things. And that seemed to be a little contrary to the ideas of freedom and liberty that are kind of at the heart of the Constitution.
Yeah, I would agree. That's the $64,000 question. Who's going to pay for it?
Yeah.
I like what Ruben just posted there on the side. I kind of agree with that.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I've heard the argument stated several different ways, but I disagree. I think there's a greater harm done by allowing a majority of bad people to thrive than there is to, sacrifice one or two innocent people.
Yeah, I don't know. I was more referring to the second half of what he... Decreasing the burden of proof, I think that would become an issue.
What? You think you should decrease the burden of...
No. If you
read
read all of what he said, or yeah, there you go. Go ahead and read
I'll
it.
read it, Amy, for you. First he says, okay, tar and feather Bernie Madoff. Since none of us here, I'm pretty sure not even Ramin, believe in eternal punishment in hell, isn't a life sentence the next best thing? And then he goes on to say, the 12th century Jewish legal scholar Maimonides stated that, quote, it is better and more satisfactory to acquit 1,000 guilty persons than to put a single innocent one to death, unquote. Maimonides argued that executing a defendant on anything less than absolute certainty would lead to a slippery slope of decreasing burdens of proof until we would be convicting merely, quote, according to the judge's caprice, unquote. Maimonides was concerned about the need for the law to guard itself in public perceptions, to preserve its majesty, and retain the people's respect.
Yeah, I argued freeing 1,000 murderers or 1,000 pedophiles as opposed to, executing one innocent accidentally. The freeing of the, multitudes is, I think, a much worse outcome for society in general.
The only objection I have to it is sitting on the side, and I hate to bring race up, but I will just briefly, is sitting on the side from where disproportionately more people in prison who are convicted and then found to be not guilty from DNA evidence years later for crimes that did not do it, that are disproportionate of particular races, just because who we are, and disproportionately poor and disproportionately you name it, I can't buy that one.
You have a valid argument. You absolutely have a valid argument.
I might have missed what Ermine was saying. Was that a response to what Reuven had written, or was that regarding...
Yes, it was a response based on the fact that it seems like there's a higher proportion of people of color who are just now being found guilty, or innocent, of crimes that they've been charged with due to new DNA evidence and such.
And
It's interesting that there's more...
hold on, what was the second part, Ermaine? I'm sorry?
And the poor.
And the poor people and people of color, yes.
Who are just disenfranchised, period, and have just been, once again, effed over by a system and going to lose their life. There's a chance of freedom for those who know that they're innocent and are in jail and just biding their time to serve their time. But if you kill them, there's no, and nor should there ever be any satisfaction from us because, oh, that's just one more poor person that got an unfortunate fate.
Oh, okay. But what, like, I guess I might be slow tonight. What part of what Reuven had written?
Freeing the innocent, executing the innocent versus freeing the potentially guilty.
Well, no, well, the idea is that you, it's a person is only convicted of any crime with absolute certainty.
There's a couple of things. There's the version of absolute certainty has definitely changed over time. And if you have a couple people who came forward, I mean, in all of these trials I've read, they had numerous witnesses. They had so much evidence stacked against them. They had police reports. They had no alibi. They blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was like certain. Oh, except for the people below.
Until you sit through a day of criminal court and listen in on the proceedings and how things go, in principle, it's great that we don't lock people up unless we're, sure beyond a reasonable doubt. But when you see the actual process, and then you get to find out who gets chosen as jurors, I mean, there's a lot of flaws within our system that when I say it's not beyond a reasonable doubt.
And the reality of it is reasonable doubt would be suspicious from what Reuven just wrote because it's absolute doubt and it's different. But just what I've seen historically, absolute doubt has been fraught with challenges because
there's a police report, he has a history of violence, and he doesn't have an alibi. That's beyond a reasonable doubt today.
Okay, but I guess in terms of recreating a justice system that we would want or that we would see working, like that, I mean, that's part of what we're trying to address here. It's kind of like, okay, maybe there are problems that exist. How would you address them?
Yes, you are correct.
We're not trying to do that. We're just saying in our perfect world, and that's why I sit by. I just couldn't kill someone.
Because you are aware that a mistake could be made, right?
That's part of the reason, yeah. But I don't believe the state should have that ability to take someone's life. I think that's bad.
If you look at that link that I put in the side there, it's interesting that there's been more whites executed than blacks, but if you look at the data where the amount of convictions when the defendant was black and the victim was white, there's a huge disparity in numbers there. It's insane.
All right, there's a second notion that you need to look at your data, and I'm not looking at it. Based on that data, what percentage of the population you think were white?
According to this,
we need to be comparing apples to apples, because if you say that there were, 20 times more whites that were convicted than blacks?
No. This data says 56% white, 34% black, and that's from...
Right, but the population has always been about 80% white.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So it's still disproportionately more black.
Oh, absolutely. And if you scroll down on the page a little more, what I was trying to get at...
non-black.
Right. Look at the third graph there, though. When the black person is the defendant and the white person's the victim, the execution for the interracial murder is insanely... Oh, it's off the chart.
If I could go back a notch, I think this too also would be something that would be alleviated with better education. What I was saying before, we need to make sure that we invest in all of our children's futures, regardless of what their economic, diversity is, or what their color is, or what their race is, or how new they are to the country. You got to make sure that everybody that's part of the fabric of your nation has a decent education and the tools to cope with our future. If they don't have that, then of course they're going to end up in somehow bungling into our legal system.
But what's going on? Our forefathers noticed this, right? They weren't stupid, and they realized that education can cure a lot, and they provided for people to have, as long as they were citizens, right? And they changed the definition of that. To have education, and it would be paid for by the state. This is what part of our taxes go into. I don't think the problem is education. I think it's actually more systemic. Because when you are poor, the money that they have to, like, let's say everybody said every school should get the same amount of money. Is that the fairest thing to do?
Yeah, I'm not talking about making sure the schools have the money. I'm talking about making sure that children get educated. I don't know what it would take to make that happen.
Okay.
That needs to happen, and it's not happening.
That's true. The only thing is that even if you have a stellar education system, you still have to address the problems in the legal system so that you don't have courts convicting innocent people.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, if you had, well, like we were talking about, you know, if you were teaching more critical thinking skills, you know, you would have better educated jurors.
And better educated criminals.
Yes, I was getting ready to say that. He's exactly right when you think about it.
That is a. I'm willing to do that.
Or would you have people who had critical enough thinking skills that they realized if they got cut, they were fucked, so maybe they shouldn't do it?
Yeah, fair enough. I think anybody, you know what? Anybody that I've ever had, most people that are successful in life have a grandfather or a father far enough up the chain that'll tell you you can get more with an education than you can with a gun.
But then people who aren't very educated believe the opposite, in my opinion.
Which is, again, why we need to make sure everybody gets educated.
Oh, I thought you were going to say gets a gun.
Well, it's the disparity, right? It's so easy to grab a gun and go rob somebody for, you know, say $500 or $600 to get by. It's harder to fix the problem after it already exists, you know.
Well, we all need to invest in everybody's future, and I don't know how to make that happen, but I'm on board if somebody has a plan.
Hey, Brandon, welcome to the room. I see you're using Frank's there avatar.
I thought it was like, who's that?
Oh, that's lame.
Confused me there for a second.
John,
All the people's avatars to steal. Why Frank's?
this Frank is so cool.
There he is.
Yeah, but I was excited. I was like, oh, it's Frank. Fucker.
Well, and now you're not excited because it's Brandon.
Yeah.
It's funny.
You're cold.
I expect that from John May.
Yeah, he was me for a while.
Brandon, any thoughts on the on our topic here? Did you catch any of the broadcast while you're outside of it? I don't know if Brandon. Oh, there you go. Oh.
Or anything.
We can barely hear you.
You guys can hear him? Are you on crack?
No, he said one sentence, and I could barely hear him. Now I can't hear nothing.
Yeah, I heard some noise. Oh, well.
Well, what's a facet of this that you guys haven't covered?
In society, women would rule.
What's that, Ermi?
In my society, women would rule.
I am not going to touch that with a 10-foot pole.
Say that after you've had Hillary for 4 years.
I'll save my comments until we're not live.
I think Hillary for 4 years could be really interesting. I think Sarah Palin wouldn't have been very good.
What?
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 We may not be able to be friends now, I mean.
She wants a theocracy, Sarah
She's
Palin.
insane.
I said Sarah Palin would not have been good.
Oh, I thought you said she would. I was like, oh my God, what is wrong with you?
I was about to rethink our friendship.
Right, me too.
I had my finger on the eject button.
But we would have been. What was her latest, funniest quote? We would have shown people how we baptize them by waterboarding. I was like, OMG, is all I can say. That's it.
Yeah, she's up there with Duck Dynasty guy now, talking about putting God back in America.
Yeah, because God's going to waterboard people.
I say let him do that up in Alaska and let all the crazy nuts that want to be that way move up there.
Because 85% Christianity isn't enough.
Well, before we get off totally topic here,
Reuben, I totally disagree with you, bud.
I agree too. I disagree too. Sorry.
What? Sorry, what?
Reuven said Sarah Palin is very intelligent in comparison to the average American Christian. I think he's being a little... You don't know enough fundies. Yeah, he's...
I think he's comparing her to other fundamentalists.
Yeah, he is. Okay.
That's a fair argument.
Hey, Carlton.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Carlton. Just the man to keep this conversation going?
Oh, God.
Oh, God, you love that. You know it.
Okay, she probably caught me smiling.
I got to pop out of here. I just wanted to say thanks for the invite. It was good talk, and I hope to be in the next one.
Are you sticking around, Grant? Or
Grant? I'm heading out. I got to do some stuff with the dog, and I missed dinner, so I got to go dig in the dark.
Grant tells me to stay, and then he leaves.
Sorry, Mr. Prescott. Mr. Johnson. You all have a good evening.
Have a good night, Grant.
Take care, Grant. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah. Oh, Colin, did you catch any of the broadcast so far?
Nope, not even a word.
Oh boy. What would you do differently in our criminal justice system? If you were king,
Yeah, if I was king, right? Yeah, well, I think we talked about it before. I mean, I think basically, prisons should not be punitive; they should be restorative as much as possible. And if it's not possible to restore somebody, then you might have to keep them locked up for everybody's protection. And I don't think that the state should have the right to execute anybody, but I do think that if a prisoner doesn't want to be locked up for life, he should be able to request that the state terminate his life, and we shouldn't be squeamish about that since we do it anyway for people that don't want us to do it. And let's see, that's the big piece. The other piece is I'm not sure that we should be incarcerating people that, well, certainly not for what what you would call victimless crimes. I think as long as somebody doesn't do something that is directly, I don't want to say this. I don't want to say this is harmful, but if somebody doesn't do something that somebody else absolutely doesn't want them to do. In other words, a victim, I guess, is the easiest way to say it. Yeah, I don't think they need to be prison. I think our prison sentences for a lot of crimes are way too long, and I think for others they're too short. So I think that if you're going to incarcerate somebody at all for, I don't know, selling drugs, or I don't know, larceny, or those type of crimes, computer hacking, whatever, I see no reason for those sentences to be any more than a year long at the max. It seems counterproductive, actually, because you're taking a relatively minor criminal and you're turning him into a career criminal I think at that point. So there you go. That's a summary. How's that?
Would you legalize prostitution?
Would I legalize prostitution? I think prostitution is one of those things that I don't see that the government has really shouldn't be sticking their nose into that at all. We're talking about two consenting adults having sex. The only difference is we're talking about one of the adults would like to get some money for having that sex. I mean, fundamentally, right? If a woman says that she'll go to bed with me, but I got to buy her dinner first, how is that really any different? All we're saying is skip the food, just give me the money for the check. Yeah, I don't think we should be involved in that at all. Now, that said, okay, I am talking about emphasis underlining the word consenting between both parties. I'm not talking about forced prostitution. That's a whole different ball of wax.
Get rid of the pimps.
Yeah.
Get rid of the pimps, yeah.
Make them self-employed business women and men.
I thought that for those of you that have seen the TV series Firefly with companions, I thought they did a real good job of that. That they were companions, that it was women who picked the men. Men basically, would send videos or whatever saying, you'd put your schedule up and say, I'm an escort, I'm a prostitute, I'm going to be in town for this week. The men would send you videos, I'd like to spend an evening with you, and blah, blah, but it was up to women to choose who she wanted to go with, sort of in a more formal way. And they had training in sexual pleasuring, and they had mandatory exams and health and that type of things, and it was actually it was more like a courtesan. It was they were schooled not just in how to give blowjobs, right? They were they knew how to play music, they knew about arts, they knew about having conversations. They were schooled in philosophy. They were in a very broader sense. Well, companions is actually the word they use, and I thought it was a good word. I kind of like that idea.
Like geishas.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it for word? Motel 6. Motel sex.
It's kind of weird. I mean, I think that when you like when you said geishas, I think the vast majority of people that are prostitutes really aren't qualified to be prostitutes. I mean, you know kind of what I'm getting by that. I mean, I think to be a real companion, to be a real prostitute, to really provide that kind of a service requires more training.
Though, right, Carlton?
Are you speaking from personal experience?
I've had some bad prostitutes where I felt like I didn't get my money's worth. Yes, I think instead of denigrating the job and sort of relegating it to the bottom of the barrel, so to speak, I think if we put the job on a pedestal and change the very nature of the job so that it's something that is esteemed and prized, then I think we elevate the capabilities, the qualities of the people that practice it, that's better, I think, all the way around.
And as a parent, how do you deal with "Daddy, I want to be a whore"?
Remember to send some money home each week. I don't know. I mean, that's the point. Is I don't think it needs to be dealt with any more than "Daddy, I'd like to be a lawyer." It's a trade, and like any trade, it comes with its own set of its own unique risks, and rewards. And if you do it, if you're smart about it, I don't see that it should be an issue. I think it's an issue now because it's not regulated, because there are pimps, because women are basically treated like dirt, because the profession is seen as people that want to be used and abused and are the dregs of society, and so they're treated that way. I think we create the problem.
I'd like to hear Ermine's thought on that.
I already agreed with that they should legalize prostitution. That was like when it first started. I
know. Carlton just added to it.
I think there's only a couple points. I don't agree that if somebody is going to be in jail for life, that they should get the option to end their life. I think that's the only thing I disagree with them on.
That's odd. Why don't you? What part of that don't you like or don't you agree with?
You serve your sentence.
Well, do you think the state should be able to take lives?
No.
I mean, as in terms of a death penalty.
No, I've said that.
Oh, okay. I didn't hear that part. Okay.
But the state is supposed to represent the people. So what if the consensus of the people, say if there was a vote?
Yeah, but the people will do what is it of the majority tyranny? It's not, there's limits to that.
But I understand what Hermine's saying. If you're against the death penalty to start with, then yes, it would seem kind of odd to say I'm against the death penalty, but if you really want to, then like, okay. I guess I'm not against the death penalty per se. Well, I am. All right, I
You
gotta be
want
careful here what I
innocent
say.
people
I did
dying
say
at the
that.
end of it.
I think, yeah, but I guess I'm not against the idea necessarily of taking someone's life. I just think I'm against it in terms of being forced on them. I'm not necessarily against it like it would be for euthanasia, or a person who says, I'm done. I'm in jail. I'm going to be in jail for the rest of my life. Foreseeably, there's no likelihood of parole for what I did. I, if the whole point of the justice system is restorative, and if we can't restore you because we don't have we just don't have the ability, we don't know how. If we can't do that, then to me there is no point in serving out the sentence, because it's not there to punish you. It's not retribution. It's there for the protection of the rest of society. And if you want us to end your life, well, that protects them equally well. So I don't see why. Yeah, I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Reuben has a question for Ermi. He said, how do you justify your political beliefs with your religious beliefs, specifically supporting legal prostitution?
There were prostitutes in the Bible that opened up the city of, oh, God, I want to say Jericho, and I know I'm being an ass, and that's wrong. That Christ kind of thanked and made him part of his, crew. That's the only way I could say it. I just don't think there's anything wrong with it. I don't know why that would. Maybe I'm missing something.
I think a lot of Christians would argue against the idea of premarital or extramarital sex.
He says that's a Christian spin. There's no evidence in the Bible that Rahab was a prostitute.
Okay.
Oh God, he's so good. He knows exactly what I'm talking about.
Wasn't it like Mary? Was it Mary Magdalene? Who was the prostitute that washed his feet with her hair? Wasn't there a prostitute that did that in the Bible?
Even that's an assumption that she.
Oh, okay. He says that's also not in the Bible.
Right. Exactly.
Well, but again, I think that my comment there. I think if you
exactly,
I think it's still a valid question if you believe that the Bible is against extramarital or premarital sex.
Okay, you can run it by this way. Maybe the Bible is against premarital sex or extramarital. What if it was, and I don't think this is the case, that every woman whose husband passed away or divorced her could be a hoe after it? I'm sorry, a hooker. Sorry, a prostitute.
Okay, say that again.
It's a joke.
It's a good joke. I liked it.
The whole point is, I don't have an issue with it. I just don't. How do I put that against my religious beliefs? I don't know. I mean, I'd much rather. The reality of it is, in the times that we live in, people do that stuff. They can be forgiven. They can move on. Whatever. It's not my job to basically morally put my beliefs onto anybody else in society. And so that's how I justify it. I get that not everybody's going to have my same system and beliefs, and if they want to do that, that has nothing to do with my religious beliefs. It's just something that I'm not going to do, and that's how I bring resolve.
There's a weird downside to legalizing prostitution.
No.
Well, no, well, it came from a TV show, and I haven't really given it a whole lot of thought. But one of the ideas against legalizing prostitution, I mean, the case for, of course, is you get health care, you can, all these things that you can do. The downside was, well, maybe these women don't want people to know they're working as a prostitute, and by regulating the industry and giving ID cards and physicals, you put those people into a position where they must do it out in the open. I mean, you're going to ask to see an ID if if we regulate this and you've got exams and it's going to have your real name on there. Is that a concern?
Wait, you said regulating. I said legalizing.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I would think if we're going to legalize it,
I think you legalize.
regulate's a harsh word, but
I think you legalize it in the way that you've legalized porn, right?
yeah.
There's not really much you have to do there. If you want the certain women to work for your company and you want certain men to work for your company, then it's in their best safety or in the safety of others that they're tested for AIDS every month or something, whenever it comes up. So they kind of industries can self-regulate themselves once you legalize them.
Well, that's an interesting concept. So if we legalize it, should we regulate it as well?
No, you just
should we force exams? Should we force exams and have standards of health care?
We don't force regulation on the weed industry.
Well, but here's what we do, right? Here's what we do. If you work in
want pot, you go to the places that have good pot.
Right. I understand.
Capitalism takes care of itself.
But here's the difference. Here's what I think is the difference, though. I mean, if I want a pot, yes, I go to the places that buy good pot. I grant you that. But if you are a worker in a healthcare facility, for example, if you are a nurse or a healthcare giver, you are regulated in terms of the shots you have, the vaccines you have, because you are in a position to transmit those diseases to other people. And I think you could make the same case for somebody who is going to work as a sex worker, that they are in a position to transmit diseases. Therefore, that should be a regulated industry, just like healthcare workers are regulated. Whereas pot, you're right, there's a market thing there that you're only going to buy the good pot, but if you go buy bad pot, all you get is bad pot. You don't get HIV.
Well, where prostitution is legal, isn't there requirements for them to?
Yeah, I think there is.
And get shots and stuff like that.
No.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there is. Well, maybe not everywhere.
In Vegas, it is not required. Not that I visited one there.
Look up Australia.
Look at Vegas. We don't have to go too far from home. The reality of the situation is, in certain industries that there is danger. If you go into that industry and pay for a hook or a slut or whatever, then you know that there's a certain risk. You already know that. And when you go into a hospital, you are not, the risk is different because you know that's supposed to be actually a safe place where you're not.
But the reason that you know that is because it's regulated.
But the reason that industry in and of itself is dangerous, so you should leave it unregulated. Let me just finish, Carl. If I am going into an industry such as, let's just take this industry for instance, and if it leaves it unregulated and you allow capitalism to do what it's supposed to do, I would rather pay $1,000 for a guy to, to me all night and know that he has been checked out every week. He takes his little HIV, herpes, and whatever else checks. And I'm still going to wear a condom, right? And then I could take the risk one night, maybe I'm feeling frisky and a little bit low on cash, and go to the $100 one and get my penicillin shot for the next couple of days. That's the risk I take, but I know that in going and opening my legs in that industry.
Right. I guess my only thought there again is I don't think we would make a case to deregulate healthcare with the same logic, because we certainly could deregulate healthcare and say nobody needs shots if you work in healthcare, and if you go, you just take there's a risk and you take that risk. I don't think that we would accept that.
Apples, and that's totally unfair.
It's what now?
It's not apples to apples. If we decided to deregulate drugs, is a perfect example. If we decided to deregulate them and said, you know what, if you go out there and you get your crack and something happens to you, it's your fault. That is a dangerous, dangerous industry. If we want to start taxing it and making it a legitimate industry, we can definitely do that. I think the closer tie is with drugs than it is with a hospital.
Okay, so with drugs, I mean, I think I would make the same argument. I think if we were to legalize drugs, I think then we also should be obliged to regulate the industry so that drugs are safe. I think it's only doing half a job if you say, well, it's legal, and if you get some bad crack and you die, that's your problem. I think that's only taking half the half a loaf, so to speak. I think if we're going to legalize it, then we should also make sure that it is safe to use them, and that's why I think it should be the same for prostitutes. If we're going to legalize it, then we should take the steps to make sure as much as possible that it's a safe industry.
And what government agency is going to be responsible for that?
Oh, the Americans Against Prostitutes with Sexually Transmittable Diseases.
Is that part of the FDA?
No, it's the one I just made up. I don't have an agency for you yet.
We're having a hard time just keeping our food and drug in line without getting in bed with everybody.
Well, I agree. I agree we are, but I think though that when we say that, while I realize that there certainly would be logistical challenges, I think the fact that it's difficult shouldn't impact the fact that we still should be doing it. I think there are some things that are just right to do, and if they're difficult, then they're difficult, and you do the best you can.
You cannot regulate some woman's body, some man's body, and force them in that industry to do that. It's their body.
But we do that.
Isn't part of the stipulation of being
we do that in healthcare. We do that in healthcare. We regulate. We say you must have vaccines. We say before you go overseas, you must have shots. Of course, we regulate. We do it all the time.
In healthcare.
Teachers have to get shots.
Yeah, I mean, we regulate all the time, and nobody says anything about it.
We don't have to get shots. If you have a religious, you don't have to get them.
I don't know. I can't speak to that because I don't know. So.
What were you talking about? I mean, who?
You don't have to get shots.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Immunizations. You don't have to get them.
Who? Well, no, but who? Are you talking about healthcare workers?
Kids.
Oh, I'm not talking about kids. I'm talking about people providing services. I'm talking about the healthcare workers themselves.
Healthcare, teachers.
The difference with the healthcare worker, in my opinion, is that it is a safe and supposed to be safe environment. One that does not spread disease.
But it didn't.
The world. Let me finish, Carl.
Yeah, let him finish.
All right.
In the world that is as risky as sex and knowing the STDs that can get passed down, that is your own.
Right.
I could argue that healthcare workers spread more disease.
Well, I would say that healthcare workers, hospitals didn't always used to be safe places. They didn't become safe places until we regulated it.
I don't care. I'm completely in agreement with it. I don't care if it's safe to go get your boner knocked off. It doesn't need to be safe. You're getting a release. That's it.
Yeah. See, I think that's doing half a job, but that's me. Okay, that's fine.
Here's my other question in regards to prostitution. Now we're talking about not imprisoning people, say for victimless crimes, but aren't in some cases prostitution there is a victim involved? Say in a case of a man goes sees a prostitute and it affects his marriage, the victim is the wife.
I was kind of arguing kind of the same point to Jello about drug arrests. You can say, well, that was a victimless crime, but if they continue to do it in their neighborhood, it's going to cause crime.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of, like, in South America, some countries, I shouldn't say every country, but it's actually a bigger crime being a drug dealer than it is being a rapist because of how many more people you can potentially harm who get hold of your drugs. That one's, I just don't know about that one. I don't know. And who's to say that, like, I've heard a great argument against what I was saying, why you should force people in the hooker community to regulate it, and that if they do have HIV and they're just passing it along to everyone, shouldn't you have some regulations against that? I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know. I just think that you're going to go see someone and they could be passing on diseases, and all you have to do is put a hat on it, that your failure to, that's your own risk.
I made the mistake of looking up some of the regulatory stuff in Australia, Airmeen. Apparently, it's not illegal in parts of Australia for a hooker that has HIV to not tell you before having sex. However, it is a crime after the fact. How lame is that?
That is lame.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because you can still take that drug that Chris was telling us about. I forget. I want to call it DEL. Within, I don't know, a couple days of being exposed to the virus, if you take this stuff, it makes sure that the virus does not get hold. So that makes it, that's really interesting, because what they're saying is it's not murder until after you can't cure yourself. And really there is like a 3-day window of being exposed where you can cure yourself now.
That's crazy, though. Say you use protection and you don't get infected. I think, God, if the person knew they could possibly pass it on, I still think it's a crime.
But if they tell you after, it's not, because then you can go take the pill.
That's, I don't know about that.
But that I can see that that's how they're thinking of it now. Because they could say, well, I didn't say anything until after because it wasn't a crime. It's not murder.
Still causing, though, harm to the person. I mean, imagine that just happened to you, Airmeen. Even though you knew this pill existed, wouldn't you kind of be devastated?
You would, yeah, and you would think second about having sex.
Well, I think that's more it. Like, you should probably be thinking some other things. But, like, for instance, I've heard of that happening to people in their marriages. You know, where their husband cheats on them with a hooker, and they come back and give their wife AIDS. Now, if they would have just told their wife, I'm cheating on you, I may have passed on something to you.
So who's the criminal, the husband or the prostitute then?
The husband.
What?
Or both of them?
No.
Because he knew, right, Airmeen?
There's two things going on. I think if the prostitute tells you they have HIV, there's no in Australia. I think that's accurate. There's no crime committed by her. If you are cheating on your wife, there's nothing that you can be. I don't think should be prosecuted for, but you're kind of at fault. So I was joking with the term criminal, but I don't think there's anything criminal going on there. You probably need your ass kicked by your wife, but that's about it.
Well, see what I might be missing something, but in any other situation, doing something to keep your partner from making an informed decision when it comes to sex is considered rape.
Yeah, I think you're missing something because I didn't get
it.
Yeah, I'm like.
Well, I mean, if you don't tell your partner that you have a disease, that keeps them from making an informed decision on the situation. If you give someone a drug, they can't make an informed decision, so it's rape.
Most people wouldn't have consented if they had known the information beforehand, is what he's saying.
Yeah, but how is that equal to rape?
Well, how is giving someone a drug to keep them from making an informed decision rape then? You're removing their ability to make a decision.
Somebody help me out because I'm missing it.
Yeah, I'm not getting it either.
No, I follow him.
Okay.
If you're going to go have sex with somebody, right? Let's say they have HIV. They don't tell you they have HIV. You have sex with them. You later on find out that they had HIV. You probably wouldn't have slept with that person had you known that information beforehand. Therefore, you can kind of argue that you wouldn't have had consensual sex with them.
You had sex with them because of...
Okay, but
so it's almost like involuntary rape instead of like involuntary, you know?
Like
it's uninformed sex. It's uninformed sex.
Yeah, but okay, HIV is one. Herpes, is that another? Genital warts, is that another? What if they didn't know? I mean, it goes on and on and on with that one. The reality of it is, you had what you were saying yes to was sex, not sex without the chance of an STD.
But there's a difference when the person knows. I mean,
I don't doubt that they may make a different decision, but how is that linked? You got to be, in my opinion, really careful when you call something close to rape, and make that analogy, because that's a huge leap for me.
No. What I was saying was it's different when the person knows they're infected.
It's kind of a huge leap for me as well. And you know, if you are going to go see a prostitute, I think you already are aware that there are risks.
Right.
Whether they're as severe as HIV, no, but you do realize there are risks.
Yeah, but I think we're only saying this in the case where the prostitute absolutely knows they're infected.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
But you
This is where we're making the case for regulating. This is where we're trying to make the case for regulating prostitution.
I'm for regulating it, so.
But you know that you can take a pill that will make you...
Doesn't matter. I mean, would you do it? Would you take that risk only to take the pill?
I would go see a prostitute, and it's not called rape.
That's like saying, hey, buy our new product. It's really awesome. Oh, by the way, we're going to temporarily infect you with something, and you're going to get really stressed out for a little bit, but don't worry, take this little pill, and we hope it will just go away for you.
But it's not rape.
Yeah, see, I don't know.
Okay, well,
I think
better.
there's a difference. I think there's a difference, right? Because if you're giving somebody a drug, okay, and then having sex with them, it's not only that you've clouded their judgment or not given them information. It's that you've put them in a position where they are not able to say no, or they're so weakened that you basically can overpower them if they do say no. And I think simply withholding information, like the sex worker that has HIV, it's slightly different. I don't know that I can call that rape. I mean, yes, you're not giving them information, you're not being forthcoming. But,
yeah, I wouldn't call it rape either.
But you're not forcing their hand. In other words, they have to also be aware of the fact that you might be lying about this. They have to be aware of the fact, or should be aware of the fact, that in fact you might have HIV and just are not willing to tell them. And so I think that needs to be part of that decision-making process, that's enough information for them. Seems to me like they are already accepting that possibility.
Isn't that shifting blame to the victim?
Well, I don't know. I'm not sure what obligation. I'm trying to figure that out. What kind of an obligation does the sex worker have? This is like if I'm a used car salesman. This is caveat emptor. If I'm a used car salesman, I may know that the car that I'm selling you has a crappy transmission, but I'm not under any obligation to tell you.
Actually, you are.
Well, yeah, because yes, I know. Well, I'm not obligated to tell you, but there's a lemon law, and you can return it if, in fact, that's the case. But I'm not obligated to tell you. It's still up to you.
So then you're in agreement with the Australians, then? They don't.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this out.
Buyer beware.
In America, the lemon law covers something that was unforeseen. You still have to disclose that the car has a bad transmission when you sell it. If it has a bad transmission.
Let's make it this way. Let's suppose I'm not a used car dealer, though. Let's suppose I'm buying a car from my neighbor. He doesn't have to disclose it to me.
Actually, I think he does.
Does he? I'm not sure.
Yeah. But anyway, I mean, let's ask this question.
Yeah.
Carlton, if you have AIDS, is it your responsibility to tell someone, or is it their responsibility to find out?
I don't know. I truly don't.
Because let's take it out of the whole sex.
I think if it's HIV, I think I want to make a distinction between diseases that can be cured, okay, syphilis, gonorrhea, versus HIV, which is potentially fatal.
HIV can be cured now. It's been curing in Denmark. It just cost a lot of money to get the cure, but.
So then it's my fault that I have to buy this expensive pill because I trusted a person that they already knew that they had HIV.
But you should not be sticking your dick into everything that's...
Okay, but Ermine, let's take this out of the prostitution ring. Let's take it into real life. You're the cute girl next door. You just happen to have HIV, and you know it.
Well, but see, wait a minute. There's a moral issue. I hear what I think. To me, it sounds like moral equivocation here. We're saying that we're legalizing this, and then we're passing moral judgment on the guys that partake. we're treating them as though they're committing a crime when we've already said we've legalized this. If they're legalizing it, they're not doing anything wrong by sticking their dick in there.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a sexist undertone there from Ermine.
No, I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. I'm saying that there is cause and effect. There are natural consequences still. So there's no moral judgment. It's just put a hat on it. It is your job to protect your penis and your body, or if you're a woman, your vagina.
Yes, but
This goes back to education here. We're going to have critical thinking of prostitution.
Well, first of all, okay, while wearing a condom is good, wearing a condom is no guarantee of not getting a disease.
Yep.
So let's start there. Okay, it reduces the risk. It doesn't eliminate it. So I mean, and that's part of it. And I think it's like if we're legalizing this, then I think you have to treat them like we treat any other business. And I think in almost any other business, we have laws that specify things that you must say or must make the other person aware of. There are things in a contract you have to make the person aware of. There are businesses. Businesses can cheat you in certain ways, but there's other ways they clearly cannot cheat you.
I have a good analogy that I'm thinking of that kind of fits Ermine's.
I was thinking like an FDA. I can't put Carl's bug juice, in a bottle on a shelf and say this cures cancer. I simply can't do it because we've regulated that industry to prevent that type of risk. It doesn't eliminate all risk. Right, you can still take too many aspirin that you can buy over the shelf, but we eliminate the risks that we can deal with, and I think it's right that we should do that.
Ermine, do you think there should just be a little sign like there is in a restaurant? We can't be responsible for you eating undercooked meat. I mean, seriously. I mean, would that be good enough for you? You're taking a risk every time you come into this.
Are we talking about oral sex now?
No, I'm just talking about there are risks.
You were talking about eating uncooked meat or something. Sorry.
No, yeah, it's an okay.
You want to kind of.
You get my analogy. You did it. Does it make sense?
But you go to a restaurant, kind of, with the idea that the risks are minimal. I think if you sometimes it'd be. I don't even think we want to know the truth of what goes on in some restaurants. We wouldn't eat there, but.
I think
isn't it your fault if you order it extra rare and you get sick? Isn't it your fault for telling them not to cook it right?
A sushi restaurant, or if you order something extremely rare,
Sure.
Know that there's those risks.
Sure, but you know what? I can still look at the restaurant and see a health inspection certificate that eliminates, that reduces some of those risks.
I agree.
Okay.
I just don't think that should happen in the sex business.
I think we should treat it like every other business.
So, Ermine, let me clarify here. So, you don't think if you're going to be a prostitute that you should get regularly checked and perhaps hold a card saying you're HIV free?
You should be regularly checked, and that will improve your income. I think if you are not checked and you can't show this card that you were checked on this date, people are going to pay you less. It's natural.
Yeah, but let me wait. Like, just say let's go back to the car analogy, okay?
Bedtime for me, guys.
Okay.
Oh, it's a perfect example. I'm so glad you brought this up. It's like a certified used car is the perfect example. If you buy a certified used car, you know that shit has gotten a 1,000-point inspection, and you're going to pay a little bit more for that certified used Toyota.
Well, wait. I want to try to take it another step, though, because every year you're on at least every state that I know, every year you're required to get your car inspected, right, to prove itself to be safe, on the road. So that's the kind of thing I'm saying is a yearly medical inspection, and you get a certificate or some kind of, when you get your car inspected and it passes, you get the sticker. Why should it not be the same, with prostitution?
I think it's weird that we're running this question through all these different bureaucracies. Why don't we just ask a simple question? Whose responsibility is it to inform the people? Is it the prostitute, or is it the person seeking the prostitute? If you have AIDS, should you tell your partner?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go. That solves the problem. Prostitute should tell their partner.
But it's not criminal if you don't.
What if they infect somebody? Then it's not criminal either. Then.
Yeah, I mean, service. Is it? Do you think it's criminal if they don't?
With the example that Joseph gave, if you tell them after the sexual act and they can cure it, then there is no issue. That was the only.
There's still an issue there, though.
As far as sexually transmitted diseases go, in Illinois, I mean, I'm assuming it's a lot similar in other places, but in Illinois, if you give your partner a curable transmitted disease, it's assault. If you give your partner a non-curable transmitted disease, it's attempted murder or murder.
Oh, that's not. So it would be, you'd be saying it's assault because it is
if it's curable.
Okay, so in this case, we know that within 3 days it's curable. That's an interesting way of looking at it.
And that's only if they're infected. So I guess if they get lucky and don't infect their partner,
that is
it's not.
Interesting twist.
Yeah, I don't think the laws are the same in every state. That's why it's really interesting to hear that. I didn't think of that.
Yeah, you know, see how tough it is to balance the scale here, because now you're dealing with legal against moral issues, you know, and that becomes, yeah, I mean, it's tricky. Not so easy to rule a kingdom.
I just think it's silly, I mean, to say that there's absolutely no damage if you could say, hey, here, take a pill and in 3 days you'll be fine. There's mental anguish there. There's stress related with that. It's something that you shouldn't purposely put somebody through if you have the means of not putting them through that.
I guess I'm a lover a little bit more of the free market and let it do its thing.
There's also a chance the medicine won't work. I mean, there's always a chance the medicine won't
work. In which case, that is premeditated. Well, not premeditated. That might be premeditated if it doesn't work. There's always that chance.
What if the free market, I mean, okay, say you just like let free reign go, and then, you know, okay, we get a certain level of consequences here, you know, the percentage or something, I don't know. It gets to a point where now the market's saying, no, we need to be better informed, and there has to be some kind of regulation.
That could happen too. Oh my gosh, let me mute this chat.
The only thing then is, yeah, going back to now, we have to have other bureaucracies going on. Yeah.
Is there any other facet of this we haven't covered, Brother John?
I don't know, but it was, you know, yeah, good part of it on prostitution.
I know, it's funny. It's just in my world, you'd legalize it and you wouldn't have any restrictions. And maybe that'd have to calm over time. I mean, after they legalized, what's it called, drugs and alcohol, they had to come back and put some restrictions on it.
The only problem is you got all the restrictions and then the taxes, and now marijuana is becoming more expensive than it was when you can buy it illegally.
Right, this is very true, and it's even worse marijuana. But if you have a medical card here in Colorado, it's supposedly some of the best weed ever.
It's absolutely supposedly.
We're live, right? No.
I know.
Not loving the internet right now.
Yeah. Sir, I'm closing in on about 2 hours on this subject. Anybody, sir, you want to have, I don't know, last words on the subject?
If I was king or queen?
Yeah, I know you came in late, so I'll give you some extra time there.
Oh shit! Let's see.
And we were dealing specifically with the criminal justice system, like death penalty. Would you have that? Victimless crimes. Stuff. Why these people should not be in prison? Pretty much, we were in agreement on that. But I don't know.
I think if people want to live a violent life, you should give them an area to live a violent.
Uh-oh, his internet went again.
Cut off.
That's kind of what we do now, sir. We throw them in prison and let them all just duke it out. It's not working.
We lost you, sir.
Yeah, he's
your little trick there is, I think, backfiring on you a little bit.
Does anyone know what Serb looks like?
No, I have never seen his face. Just
I
like
don't think I have either.
he's the talking Reuben. Maybe he's Reuben. Okay, I'll give him another moment here. Give him a chance.
I'm just so interested. Out of all the analogies somebody's made on Google Plus, I still don't get, and maybe you guys can explain it to me one more time, how it's aligned with rape.
I didn't agree with that. I didn't. He's the one that said that. Obviously, it is uninformed consensual sex that wouldn't have been consensual, but I don't think you could call it rape. I don't know what you would call it. I guess you could say the person that didn't speak up and say, "Hey, I have this disease," premeditatively.
Well, the rape victim doesn't want to have sex at all. I think that's the distinction. At least here, they both were intending to have sex.
Right.
Whether
not the right word for it. It's not the right definition for it.
Yeah.
But
Well,
there's definitely some kind of premeditated thing there on the person's part to not tell you. Because they either figure, well, hey, this person won't have sex with me if I do inform them.
Yay! I made it back.
Welcome back.
well, it's like, I don't know.
I was saying how you're
Like the
making
person killed the other person, but they thought they were gonna get shot with a gun. Instead, he got killed with a knife. I don't I don't know. Maybe that's a poor one. Serb, you back? Cerberus.
I think he's gone already.
Yeah.
That's,
Well,
I'm sorry.
well, it was an interesting conversation. We're pushing up here on 2 hours, so thanks to everybody who joined in on the conversation. Hope everybody, our viewers, enjoyed it. And if you got any comments or anything, oh, speaking of, I didn't even check the Q&A this whole time. Let me see if there's anything. God, I always forget that.
Such a bad host.
I know. I need 2 people here. Oh, wait. Here we go. Let's see. Any questions? Thomas. No. Let me see. I couldn't really see question. Just something about it's on the medical records most of the time, ain't it? I don't know what the reference is to because I didn't go back. So, sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I can say it really quick.
Yeah.
I think we should make a big area, guard the area, and if people want to do things like rape and commit murder and all this other stuff, we just put them in there with all the tools they need to farm and live. They don't need any entertainment, and just let them kill each other or farm and live. It's just remove them from the rest of the people.
It's like what Australia was. Michael!
I'm sorry, what was that?
I was jokingly saying, isn't that what Australia was? A prison colony. Oh, he left.
Let evolution take its course, right, Cerberus?
He's gone.
He's gone again. All right.
You know about Australia.
Well, I'm going to close this conversation. Once again, thanks, everybody. And if you want to join the off-air, there's a link in the event page. And thanks for stopping by.